Alright, so again, just going to be min raising here. I plugged my computer in case you guys were worried about the battery sign. And we flop a flush draw. So I'm going to be, this is a really good board for bluffing, and I have a really good bluff. So I'm just going to be bluffing. And again, I'm going to use kind of big sizes here, just so I can get stacks a little shallower for myself, for my own comfort. And that's a pretty bad card for my range. He hits queens quite a lot. He hits straights here quite a lot. And he also has a lot of kings that play pretty well here. So I probably would have checked back this turn. So this makes this probably a good lead from him. He should have a leading range because he does hit it pretty hard. I can't really bluff because he has a lot of value and not a lot of sort of pure bluffs. But I can still float with a little bit of implied odds. Stacks are quite deep here, and the value of hitting the nuts is going to be still pretty high. And it is basically the nuts. I mean, 9 high is going to be okay. And here we actually do have a choice. We could decide to shove as a bluff. So you want to think a little bit about blockers again. He probably doesn't lead a lot of flush draws, so I think we actually don't really, the spades don't really matter too much. The 9 blocks some bluffs that he might have doing this with. But I think all in all, I think this is actually a pretty good hand to be bluffing with. And I think this is a good spot for me to have a bluffing range because I do still have a lot of kings too. So I'm just trying to think, like, I have absolutely no showdown. I'm trying to think if my blockers are good for bluffing because I should have a bluffing range here. I think since my blockers, I'm not blocking any of his bluffs, any of his thin value that bet folds, I'm pretty happy turning this hand into a bluff here. And I definitely have a lot of nuts that would be shoving. I mean, I'm shoving all my kings here, so I should have a bluffing range. And in particular, when he uses this blocker bet size too, I should definitely have some bluffing range for sure. And there's definitely room for him to be, bet folding there with a lot of 2 pairs. I mean, this is a thinking player. He has to realize that I'm shoving a lot of kings there, so his 2 pair isn't looking so pretty. So I'm actually going to elect a 3-bet here. This is a fine hand to 3-bet, and I want to see a little bit how he plays in 3-bet pots. I'm not going to use a super big sizing, because once we're in a 3-bet pot, we're pretty shallow anyway, so I'm pretty comfortable. And on this board, we actually hit this board rather hard, because we do have a lot of aces probably in our 3-bet range at this depth. He hits it somewhat hard too. I think I'm going to go ahead and bluff here because I have the bottom of my range, but there's definitely a lot of hands that want to check back here. I was betting kind of a medium size. I've been using pretty big bet sizes, so I can kind of get away with it. And now I flip a pair here, turn a pair, and so now this hand is definitely in my checking range. I don't want to bluff all the time on this kind of texture. I have too many bluffs in a sense, and he still has a lot of nuts and some bluff catchers. So, at this point, I am checking the turn a lot. And so at that point, I might as well check a pair. Like, why turn a pair into a bluff if I can't even bluff very often? And the river, the same thing's going to hold true. So I'm pretty happily just check folding at this point. I don't really think he's bluffing here very much. Oh, this kind of sucks, because versus this sizing, I think I do have to bluff catch. Like, so this is a spot where I could think exploitively and think, a lot of players just aren't capable of bluffing with this kind of sizing on this texture. But I think he is, and I need to be right here so rarely that a pair is just good enough. I don't show up with actually that many pairs here. Nah, I won't call. I tried to call. What happened? My connection die? Oh no. Oh no, I called, and I won. Yes. Sweet. And this is an interesting spot, because he turned king high into sort of a bluff thin value play. And so that gives us some reads, That tells us that our decision to actually bluff catch a 5 there, as opposed to another bluff catcher, is actually good. Because I'm glad I didn't bluff catch with a worse king high there.